Thank you very much. Sorry, I brought PowerPoint, and now I wish I hadn't, but I'm a lecturer. I can't leave the house without bringing a PowerPoint with me, so there we are. Are you okay to flick around? Flicking? You're flicking. Okay, right. So I'm going to talk briefly today about a project that I'm doing with Dr. Anne Mycott, Pure Friend, here, and a project that I'm working on separately, and it's all looking at young women's political and social participation, and it's looking at feminist activism, and it is applauding the women because we're coming back. Young women are angry. I don't count as a young woman anymore, unfortunately, but I'm angry. We want our place at the table, we want our say in politics, and that's what we are finding in our project, and we've got ideas about how we're going to make that happen. So, in short, and again, I can't believe that I started with an name. I really didn't think this through properly. But anyway, what Andy and I wanted to find out with our day was what young women think are the barriers to their political participation, and particularly within formal settings, and what they want to do about that, what they want to do to bring about a gender equal education, or gender equal politics, and what they want to do to create a new politics. I'm thinking of all of this in terms of the other project that I'm working on about young women's activism and what we're learning about what young women want to do. And a lot of this, we've heard it all before, and the fact is that young women are tired of saying the same things over and over again. There's still not enough people who look like them in Parliament. They're still not represented by people who look like them, who represent their views. There's a huge diversity issue. They're not having the role models and seeing the role models. They're sick of the age-old terminology that's required to play that game. They're sick of the suit wearing that's required to play that game. They're tired of gender stereotypes and not being taken seriously because they're young and because they're women. They're sick of not having their voice heard. We talk about young people's voice all the time and how young people need to be given a voice. Young people have a voice. They never stop talking. We're not listening. This is the problem that we have here. We're not listening. And I count myself as one of those old people who doesn't listen as much as she should. Why? The system in which we live allowed women, these women here, to be looked down upon. That ideology is carried on. And women have been told in schools, and particularly on social media all the time, that they can be whatever they want. They're sold this idea of empowerment, and they realise that they're still operating within those same patriarchal superstructures. It's incredibly demoralising. Class, stigma, traditions, etc. How do we experience these barriers? One young woman said, if we go in, we have to be angry and we have to fight and we doubt ourselves. The table that I was sitting at that day is tired of having to fight. Now, I've got a slightly different take on that. I'm only starting to fight, and I'm ancient. I'm happy to fight. I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to be angry. I'm going to use my anger. I'm going to use my emotions. I don't care if somebody calls me hysterical. I'm going to embrace all of that. But young women are saying, why do we have to fight? Why do we have to constantly fight? There's just an acute awareness of gender and structural inequalities. So what do young women want to do, please? They want a less adversarial system. They want to have a different, you never know now that Westminster's being revamped, or whenever it's going to be revamped, maybe people won't be sitting across the floor roaring at each other. It's doubtful, but it's possible that we will move to a less adversarial structure, a less adversarial system, a less tribal leadership. Young women feel that the leadership is tribal. More political engagement as normal, etc. Why? Because we need policies for everyone. And quite simply, the world would be a better place if there was a more gender equal and new politics that involved women in leaders in much higher positions and a much more equal way, breaking down those gender norms. Who? Everybody. Everybody in this room, everybody outside this room has got to contribute to this new world order. And I think one of the things that came out really of the day, that is coming out of what I'm looking at with young feminists is very much returning to this idea of deeds, not words. So a lot of young people are tired of talking, and they are tired of not having their voice heard, and they want to move on to substantive structural and cultural change. How they're going to do that We're not quite sure yet how we're all going to do that. We're not quite sure yet. But it is time to start making these differences. In many respects, the time for talk is over. But young women need support with that. They need male support with their campaigns. They need men on board as allies, as people to help them, moving beyond identity politics, pushing through, doing whatever needs to be done. And again, action and not just words. And you can't really see this, potentially, it looked a lot better in my computer, but this is a picture from Donald Trump's cabinet. There's Mike Pence, lovely man, sitting in the middle there. He's even scarier than his boss, if you ask me. This was the day when they were debating different maternity aspects of the healthcare bill. There is not a woman to be seen. And this isn't surprising. We see this here. We definitely see it in the US now. But come on! I mean, that's just one of the most ridiculous things that I've ever seen. We need to challenge normative discourses around women. Around about the time that we had this day in Huddersfield, Theresa May had been on something or other this morning, or one of those things, and Corbyn had been on something or other the week before, and they talked to Corbyn about his activism and all the work that he had done before he became a leader in the Labour Party. They talked to Theresa May about her marriage. They asked Theresa May about her marriage, and these young women were appalled. What was that about? What is that differentiation? What are these normative discourses that we have around women that we will not lose? Addressing political inertia, I'm sure you've talked a lot about that today. There is a sense of political inertia, and I think that one of the people who spoke to me before me said that if you don't start voting, you don't start voting, and there is a political inertia. Focusing genuinely and proactively on gender issues and social justice, not just ticking boxes, not just sitting around deciding what is the best thing to do for women. All women representation, more women and more women-focused spaces, etc. And young women are keen on movements. They want movements in their schools, in their universities, in their communities, all sorts of different movements like this, but something that's going to start generating the sort of action and the sort of deeds that we want. So deeds, not words. What I'm seeing a lot in my work, and honestly what I'm finding, as disheartening as I am encouraging, is the biographies of young women that are running through all of this activism. The sorts of things that turned me into a feminist 200 years ago are the sorts of things that young women are still saying now. The sorts of things that turned my mother into a feminist in rural Ireland 300 years ago, that young women are still saying now. How can that possibly be the case? How are we still experiencing the same things? How are our biographies of activism still the same? And how are these things perpetuating? I think that our anger is really important. I think that shouting our heads off is really important. I've got no problem doing that. I do that every single day of my life. Embrace our anger. It's warranted. It's there. Use it. And what we're seeing is the protests of what Judith Butler called the dispossessed. Women have been dispossessed. Young women are still being dispossessed, and we need to do something about it. We need to get intersectional about it, and we need to start these aspiring and altruistic movements that bring about the change that young women want to see. That's it. Thank you.